Hi, welcome to Bitesize Breakfast Bible Bitz. Growing up, I can say I was pretty ignorant of what it meant to be a real follower of Jesus, to be a part of the church. I used to think of church in terms of two B's, buildings and boredom. I just wasn't a believer. I came to realize, however, that my disbelief was based on my understanding of Christianity, which was really a misunderstanding of Christianity. And sadly, I think that's true for many people today. It wasn't until a friend of mine told me about Jesus, introduced me to the living Jesus, that I realized that church was people who had met with Jesus and had a living relationship with him. My friend passed Jesus on to me. He did exactly what Jesus told the disciples to do when, on day one of the resurrection, Jesus broke into their lockdown hideaway and said, "As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." Some say, "I've got nothing against Christians, but do they have to keep telling everyone about it?" Well, supposing today you were to win the National Lottery's £15 million jackpot, would you be able to keep quiet? During Jesus' time on earth, Jesus healed many people who came to him. Sometimes Jesus warned them not to tell others about it because he was concerned people would only focus on his miracles and overlook the real reason for his coming, to save us from our sins. This happened on one occasion when Jesus healed a deaf and mute man. Mark chapter 7 and verse 36 says, Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone. But the more he did so, the more they kept talking about it. People were overwhelmed with amazement. When something as amazing as discovering Jesus happens, you just can't keep it to yourself. And Jesus positively tells us to tell others about him. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. The church consists of followers of Jesus who are actively revealing Jesus to the world, helping the world to understand him, to understand who Jesus really is. Canon J. John says that's why the Bible describes Jesus as the bread of life, so that bakers can understand him. Jesus is the water of life, so that plumbers can understand. Jesus is the light of the world, so that electricians can understand. Jesus is the cornerstone, so that architects can understand. Jesus is the Son of righteousness, so that astronomers can understand. Jesus is the hidden treasure, so that bankers can understand. Jesus is the life, so that biologists can understand. Jesus is the great physician, so that doctors and nurses can understand. Jesus is the good teacher, so that educators can understand. Jesus is the lily of the valley, so that florists can understand. Jesus is the rock of ages, so that geologists can understand. Jesus is the true vine, so that horticulturalists can understand. Jesus is the righteous one, so that judges can understand. Jesus is the pearl of great price, so that jewelers can understand. Jesus is the wisdom, so that philosophers can understand. Jesus is the word, so that actors can understand. Jesus is the good shepherd, so that farmers can understand. Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega, so that scientists can understand. Jesus is the King of Kings, so that royalty can understand. Jesus is the way, so that traffic wardens can understand. Jesus is the truth, so that politicians can understand. Jesus is the resurrection, so that funeral directors can understand. Jesus is the one. It's all about Jesus, passing on Jesus, who he is, to the world. Jesus is the one we are revealing to those we meet today. You have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.